With 26 fireplaces, it's easy to see why this estate on Long Island was named the Chimneys. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. This video is brought to you in part by Victorian Society in America. More on them later. To understand how Howard Crosby Brokaw came to build a country palace of more than 40 rooms, you have to start with cloth. His father, Isaac Vale Brokaw, was born in Plainfield, New Jersey in 1835. Isaac began his working life with the cloth importing house of Wilson G. Hunt and Company, and in 1856 he joined his brother William to found a clothing firm they called Brokaw Brothers. The business rode the great wave of ready-made men's clothing that swept through American cities in the second half of the 19th century, dressing boys and men in garments for every season and every occasion. It made Isaac spectacularly rich. By 1887, he was counted among the wealthiest men in New York, and that year he commissioned the architects Rose and Stone to build a French Renaissance chateau at the corner of Fifth Avenue and East 79th Street in Manhattan. As his children grew and married, Isaac kept building, and in 1905 he added a pair of matching French Gothic mansions next door for his sons Howard and Irving. Howard, born in 1875, took number 984 with his wife, the former Edna Goby Lowe, and the couple raised 3 daughters there. When Isaac passed away in 1913, he left an estate valued at over $12 million, roughly $400 million in today's money, and each surviving son received about a third of that fortune. Howard stepped into his father's chair as president and head of Brokaw Brothers, carrying the family firm forward. During the First World War, he served as head of the American Red Cross in New York, and in the wider business world, he sat as a director of the Harriman National Bank and of an insurance company. In short, he was a wealthy heir who took his responsibilities seriously, and he now had the means to build a country seat worthy of the Brokaw name. In 1915, Howard turned to the Philadelphia architect Horace Trumbauer, one of the most sought-after country house designers of the Gilded Age, and the man behind the mansions of the Wideners, the Elkins, and James B. Duke. Trumbauer drew up the plans around 1916, and construction stretched across roughly 5 years, with the great house finally completed toward 1919 on a tract of some 137 acres in Brookville and Muttontown district of the North Shore. Brokaw gave his architect an unusual and revealing brief. He wanted a house that was, in his own words, long, low, and not formal, and that is exactly what Trumbauer delivered, working with his gifted chief designer Julian Abel. The result was a Georgian Revival country house of enormous length and quiet dignity, and it earned its name honestly. The finished house held over 40 rooms, and spread across them were 26 fireplaces. To serve those hearths, the roofline bristled with 13 tall chimneys, which is how the estate came to be called the Chimneys. Rather than pile the house upward into towers and turrets in the manner of his father's Fifth Avenue chateau, Howard let his country home stretch sideways across the landscape, its brickwork rising only 2 principal stories beneath a broad roof. Symmetry governed everything. The central block presented a balanced, rhythmic face of evenly spaced windows marching to left and right of a central entrance, the whole composition anchored by those clustered chimney stacks that gave the roofline its hierarchy and its punctuation. Above the front door sat a small balcony where the interior stair landing met the facade, and the stonework of the doorway was worked into a Baroque interpretation of a keystone, a restrained flourish on an otherwise sober elevation. Wings and dependencies reached outward from the main house, carrying the eye along the ground and reinforcing that deliberately horizontal, unhurried silhouette. Inside, the plan followed the same logic of balanced order, with the principal rooms arranged along the south front and the service quarters, laundry, and servants' hall tucked into a wing at one end. Before we head inside, a quick word about the sponsor of today's video, Victorian Society in America. Are you captivated by historic architecture? Want to explore, learn, and dive even deeper into the past? With the Victorian Society in America, you'll have the chance to travel to American cities and tour stunning 19th century buildings, pursue learning through internationally acclaimed summer programs in American cities and abroad, including Chicago, Newport, and London to name a few. Additionally, members will enjoy a free subscription to 19th Century, the semi-annual publication packed with articles on art, architecture, preservation awards, and book reviews. Visit the website below in the video description and become part of the Victorian Society in America today. Thank you, Victorian Society in America, for sponsoring this video. Now back to our tour. The visitor entered into a hall that set the tone for everything beyond. and the main staircase rose from near the front of the house, its landing lit by the window over the entrance. The floor of the entry was laid in tile, and from it a sweeping stair climbed toward the upper story in a single graceful gesture. This was the ceremonial heart of the ground floor, the place where guests were received, and from which the house opened out to the left and right. From the entrance hall, the interior extended along a generous circulating hall that threaded through the long body of the house, linking the principal rooms and echoing the building's stretched-out plan. The library was among the most photographed of the principal rooms and served as one of the family's everyday retreats, designed in the paneled, book-lined manner of the great country libraries of the period so that it felt warm and inhabited rather than merely grand. That it was a genuinely lived-in room rather than a showpiece is confirmed by a small detail from the historical record, for newspaper accounts of a notorious 1931 jewel robbery at the family's Fifth Avenue house described Howard and Edna passing an evening in their library over a game of backgammon. The ground floor also made room for a smoking room, the masculine retreat that every host of Brokaw's standing was expected to provide for gentlemen after dinner. The dining room, captured in the surviving photographs of the house, was scaled for the lavish entertaining the Brokaws were known for, from debutante dinners to house parties timed around the family's constant movement between town, country, and Palm Beach. Like the rest of the Trumbauer's interiors, it favored classic, well-proportioned good taste over showiness, the bones of the room doing the work that gilding might do elsewhere. The drawing room was the most formal room in the house, its name simply a shortening of the older term withdrawing room. Trumbauer gave it the same restraint he brought to the rest of the interior, letting proportion and crisp classical detail carry the room where an earlier generation of society palaces would have reached for gilding. It was made for the old after-dinner ritual, the ladies withdrawing here for coffee and conversation, while the gentlemen drifted off toward the smoking room and their cigars. Howard retired from the leadership of Brokaw Brothers in 1919, the same year his great country house was completed, closing out the family's active chapter in the clothing trade. He lived on for 4 more decades, dividing his time between the Chimneys, his Fifth Avenue house, and winters in Palm Beach, and passing away in 1960. That year proved to be the turning point for the estate. In 1960, the property passed to the founders of what became the Muttontown Golf and Country Club, and a golf course originally laid out by the architect Alfred H. Tull opened across the old grounds in 1962, later reworked by Robert Trent Jones Sr. in 1968 and by the firm of Fingerdye Span in 1971. Rather than tear the mansion down, the club adapted it, and Trumbauer's Georgian house survives today as the clubhouse, its principal rooms reused for dining, receptions, and weddings. And on that happy note, I'll turn it over to you. What did you think about the Chimneys? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Victorian Society in America. Check out their link in the video description to find out how you can get involved today. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on This House.